Changes to brackets aren't new. They're adjusted upwards every year to account for inflation, using the Consumer Price Index, CPI, as a guide. Not so big tax bracket bumps. Tax bracket adjustments for the 2025 tax year, including federal income tax brackets, increased by an average of around 2.8%, according to U.S. Bank, as CBS reports. That contrasts with the IRS bumping tax brackets by a whopping 7% in 2023 and another 5.4% in 2024 to address ongoing inflation following the pandemic, perhaps because the bump in tax brackets isn't big either. Here's more on the tax bracket updates and what they could mean for you. This year's bump was modest, relatively speaking. For individual filers, these are the new income tax brackets. 10% tax bracket, $12,400. 12% tax bracket, $12,450. 22% tax bracket, $54,105,700. 24% tax bracket, $105,701. 31,775. 32% tax bracket, $1,776. 256,225. 35% tax bracket, $256,225. 640,600. 7% tax bracket, $646,101 and up. The upper end of the lowest tax bracket, 10%, has been raised from $11,225 in 2025 to $12,400 in 2026. That's a 3.9% increase. Meanwhile, the income threshold for the top marginal tax rate, 37%, has been raised from $626,351 to $640,601 for individual tax filers next year. That's a smaller bump of 2.3%. Meanwhile, the income threshold for the top marginal tax rate, 37%, has been raised from $626,351 to $640,601 for individual tax filers next year. That's a smaller bump of 2.3%. Bracket bumps for joint filers. These are the new income thresholds for married couples who file jointly. 10% tax bracket, $24,800, up from $23,850 in 2025, a 3.9% bump. 12% tax bracket, $24,700, 100,800. 22% tax bracket, $100,800, $2,100. 24% tax bracket, $211,401, 403,550. 32% tax bracket, $403,551, 512,450. 35% tax bracket, $512,451, 768,700. 37% tax bracket, $768,701 and up from $751,601, a 2.3% bump. Other increases to tax credits and deductions. The IRS hasn't just updated income thresholds to reflect inflation. It's increased deductions across the board, which are now $16,100 for singles and married individuals filing separately, $24,150 for heads of household, and $32,200 for married couples who file jointly. The earned income tax credit is also being raised from $8,046 for the current tax year to $8,231 for families with at least 3 children in 2026. Older Americans could enjoy a bigger break in 2026 thanks to the new senior tax deduction of $6,000. One of the tax changes outlined in Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, while the 2% to 4% bump in tax brackets may not be adequate for those who've experienced higher rates of wage growth or are grappling with rising prices. The new thresholds and broader deductions should give some more wiggle room to manage taxes next year.